Welcome, everybody, to Circle Back to You. I'm your host, Jason Wilson. Today, we are joined by John Lenhart. John Lenhart is the owner and founder of FLowcess. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Jason. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Wonderful, wonderful.
So, John, just give us some background information about yourself.
So I originally got a degree in chemistry and chemical engineering many, many years ago, and I used that to innovate and create consumer products, detergents, fragrances, and those type of things. And almost 30 years ago now, I was given this issue this to solve where basically people had uh, an air freshener that plugged into the wall and it worked for 45 days, but after 21, they couldn't smell it. And I had to figure out why. And when I figured out why, I had basically had the only model for how the human nose and brain were connected. And I wasn't allowed to share it with anybody in the world because it was declared a trade secret. But from that data, I realized that everybody had the wrong model for the human brain. Everybody thinks that our brain is like a computer, it's all conscious brain. It's all logical. If that were true, I like to say to people, then if I logically explained to you the right way to exercise and eat, you would change your behavior tomorrow, right? But we don't. And that's because in reality, we're only 10% conscious brain. 90% of our brain is our unconscious. That's where all our energy is. That's where all our behavior is. And so what happens is a lot of people and consultants are telling people to have more energy and do it intentionally, and they're trying to fix people intentionally, and it actually causes 90% of their brain to take them down in the long term. So when I realized that, I created this non-contradictory model for the mind and brain. And I wasn't allowed to share it publicly, but I was using it to help people, get people off antidepressants, get people off bipolar medication. And then in 2015, I was allowed to speak publicly about it. And so ever since 2015, I've been using this information to help people in corporations, help teachers in schools, and help athletes. So those are the three areas that I've been mostly focused on.
Awesome, man. So, how did you start FLowcess? And what is FLowcess?
Well, the thing is that flow is when you're feeling and performing your best. And because we have a model for the mind and brain, we know how to flow. We know what flow is, and we know how to help people intentionally flow. The key is, though, is everybody has a unique process for flow. Everybody has a uniqueness. We say their mind and soul is unique, and everybody's brain is unique. And so, in order to help people flow, you can't just write a book and say, do these things to flow. It might work for the author, but it's not going to work for anybody else. And it might actually hurt other people. We actually have a process where we can get to know you and help you learn your uniqueness and your brain so that you can figure out your unique process for flow or your FLowcess. So that's what FLowcess means. It's your unique process for flow.
That's interesting. So, from that, did you create your book or did the book come before that?
Well, I have a couple books. One book is the intangible you. Everything begins with understanding who you are uniquely. This is not a personality test. This is truly who you were created to be, and it's how you get energy. A personality test is helpful if somebody's feeling kind of tweaky, and let's say they're a control, the person has control. You need to give them control, or they're going to hurt themselves or hurt other people. But a personality test is never going to help you have more energy. It's never going to help you, doing the personality. Personality is there to help you not get really destructive. Understanding your intangible driver or who you uniquely are is the key to having more energy. I like to say it this way. Psychology never has a positive diagnosis. Jason, a psychologist would never say to you, Jason, I think what you have is awesome man syndrome. You're really smart, you're funny, and you're easy to talk to. That's never going to happen.
Right.
Psychology is always going to come with a diagnosis that you go, really? I have that problem? Your intangible driver is a positive diagnosis. It's who you are. When you understand it, embrace it, and can communicate it, it changes your context and you always have more energy. So that's one of the books I wrote. Another book I wrote that's the subject of a documentary. There'll be a documentary that comes out about me next January. Is I wrote a book in 2007 where I came up with the model for God. I explained specifically who God was because of these modeling techniques I had. And that was helping people overcome depression. It was helping people have all this energy. But people who were religious leaders didn't necessarily like someone giving that answer because it caused them to feel like they were wrong. And I got attacked. Um, Now the people who have attacked me here, 16, 17 years later, are so embarrassed by some of the things they said or did. And the story is just so outrageous. I got approached a year ago um, by somebody saying, could they tell my story? I actually had been approached for like the last 16 years and always said no. But I just felt last year it was time to finally let everybody know the story because a group of people basically bullied me and stopped all of you from getting this information 16 years ago. So now those people realize what they did didn't really hurt me, it hurt all of you. And they couldn't get one person out of over 100 people who bullied me and mobbed me. They couldn't get one person to go on camera and explain what they said or did, even though it's all documented. It's going to be quite an event because, like I said, when people hear my story of what I went through, they're like, you should make this into a movie, and it's like, well, someone actually wants to make it into a documentary because it's just outrageous. I mean, you think about it. Here's a guy who has this understanding because I got this model for the mind and brain from the Bible. That's really where I got the model from. And this model was helping people. So if you think about it, the story goes something like this. Here's a guy who got a model from the Bible that's helping people with their mental and emotional health. And a group of men banded together to bankrupt this guy and slander this guy and attack this guy. And that group of men were pastors.
God's timing is perfect. I mean, it couldn't be any more perfect. We met at the perfect time, John. And I'm so grateful to you for being the coach and the host of our upcoming event called the Connection Code. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's the number one thing that will improve your mental emotional health is interacting with other people. And the way I explain it, when I go into classrooms, I explain it this way. When you experience tension, your body produces a chemical called oxytocin. Do you think that chemical makes you more tense, doesn't affect your tension, or makes you less tense? And the kids all say it makes you less tense. And I go, it makes you more tense. Why would your body, when you experience tension, make you feel more tense? It's doing that to help you do the thing that will relieve the tension, and that is sharing with somebody else. When you share with somebody else, your body then puts out these endorphins that ease the tension. Now, notice if I experience tension, my body's going to produce oxytocin to make me feel more tension. If I decide not to share, my body's going to produce more oxytocin. And if I decide not to share, it's going to do more to ramp me up. And if I decide to just isolate, think about it, I could experience so much tension that this could end in a tragic way. So really, the opposite is the way to go. And in fact, when people get really good at sharing immediately, their body doesn't produce as much oxytocin to give them tension because you've trained your body to go, I am going to share with people. So the number one thing I can do to help people is help them learn how to make and grow friendships, how to connect. And I love to ask people, how do you make and grow friendships? And they go, well, I know how. How? Explain to me. And they can't seem to do it. I have spent years helping even preteens and teenagers, as well as adults, make and grow friendships because there is a way to do it unique to you. So when you understand your uniqueness and then you understand how do you like to uniquely make friends, you end up getting more energy. And that's truly, there's nothing more I could do for you for your mental emotional health than to help you connect with other people in a healthy manner.
The thing that really, really destroys people right now is loneliness. And, I think one of the number one causes is that, just like you explained, people are isolated and they don't have people to connect with. They can't talk to anybody about what's going on. That actually leads to suicide.
And the thing is that what I have found is the thought process goes something like this. When I try to connect with people, it goes bad. So I'm better off not talking to people than connecting in a bad way. I understand how that makes sense. However, you are never going to gain energy isolating. You can rest or isolate to slow down the loss of energy. You can isolate to slow down the abuse. But ultimately, the goal is to connect with people in a healthy fashion, and that is what gains energy. So it can feel like it's the right thing not to interact with people, but really all you need is to learn how to interact. All I do is teach people how to interact, and I get out of their way. Once people get the tools, especially men, once they get the right tools, I just have to get out of their way because then they know exactly what to do.
Actually going to start this seminar with the men and then later with the women. But why start with the men?
That's a great question. The thing is that the men are the ones really who initiate everything. If you think about the men are the ones that they initiate that interaction with women. What I have found when I go into communities, when we help the men, the women just take off. And so I like to say in a community, 80% of the issues is just the men. It's just the men. And then like 10% of the issue is like men interacting with women. And then like 10% of the issue is the women. So really, once the men get into their role, they understand what they should be doing. They understand how to do it on purpose. Everybody else just takes off and they want that. They crave that from men so much. It's just us guys. No one teaches us guys how to do what we're supposed to do. And that's all I'm doing. Every time I do this class, every time I do it with men, the first thing they say is, how come we didn't learn this when we were 13? I'm mad right now that we didn't learn this when we were 13. Well, no one taught it to you. So it's not your fault. It is not your fault that you're in the situation you're in. But we're going to teach you the information and then just get out of your way.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this will actually begin on May the 4th at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern. You can go to our website and sign up. And again, John Lenhart will be teaching this. John, how often will this seminar take place?
That's every week for 8 weeks. That's normally what we did, Jonathan and I. In fact, a little surprised, Jonathan is going to join us for the first meeting. Jonathan and I have been running this type of course for over 10 years. And I asked him if he would join us for the very first meeting. So you kind of got the two guys who originated this years ago.
Oh, I'm really, really looking forward to that. Jonathan is an awesome guy as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to our website, circularfriendsclub.com. You'll also see John's profile on our website. John, where can people find your book?
My book is at modelinggod.com. So that's the website for it and the explanation and everything behind it. So yeah. It's really the first of three books. The second one will be coming out in June. So you'll be able to see it at that same site. But right now it's at modelinggod.com.
Thank you so much, John, for being on our show. We will see you again soon. Take care, ladies and gentlemen.